I found the lipstick in his coat pocket. Not mine. A bold, crimson shade I'd never wear, tucked inside a crumpled receipt from a bar in Brooklyn called the Rusty Anchor. The date was 3 weeks ago. The timestamp 11:47 p.m. My hands shook as I held it, standing in our Manhattan penthouse, the city's hum a distant roar 30 floors below. I'm Laura Bennett, 50 years old, and that lipstick was the first crack in the life I thought I'd built with my husband David. 25 years of marriage, and this was how it began to unravel. David and I met in 1998 in a dive bar in the East Village. I was a 25-year-old art history grad student, scraping by as a gallery assistant. He was 30, a junior analyst with big dreams and a bigger smile. We bonded over cheap beer and a shared love of jazz, promising each other we'd conquer New York together. I became a curator at a prestigious Soho gallery. He climbed the ranks at a Wall Street firm, becoming a partner by 40. We never had kids. Our careers were our babies. But we had each other, a penthouse with views of Central Park, and a life that glittered like the city itself. Art openings, late-night sets at Blue Note, quiet Sundays with coffee, and the New York Times. I thought we were untouchable until that lipstick. I didn't confront him right away. Something in me needed to be sure, to peel back the layers of our life before I tore it apart. David, now 55, was still the man who turned heads. Salt and pepper hair, tailored suits, a laugh that filled rooms. But lately he'd been different, distant. He'd come home late, blaming client dinners or market stress. His phone was always face down, his laptop password protected. He'd started wearing a new cologne, sharp and unfamiliar, one I hadn't bought. I told myself it was nothing, that marriages ebb and flow. But the lipstick screamed otherwise. I started watching him. Small things at first, how he'd step into the hallway to take calls, how he'd clear his browser history every night. I felt like a stranger in my own home, tiptoeing around the man I'd loved for decades. One night, while he slept, I cracked his laptop. The password was our anniversary. Ironic, I thought. I found emails buried in a folder labeled Work Miss C. They were to Chloe. Short but damning. Miss you already, one read. Thursday at the Standard. Can't wait. Another. You're my escape. The Standard. A sleek hotel in the meatpacking district. All glass and glamour wasn't our kind of place. It was young, trendy, the kind of spot where 20-somethings sipped overpriced cocktails. My stomach churned. I dug deeper. Credit card statements showed dinners at places we never went. Le Cuckoo, the Nomad. Charges for lingerie from La Perla I'd never seen. Hotel rooms I'd never slept in. The dates stretched back 2 years. 2 years of lies, woven into the fabric of our life. I sat there, in the dark, the city lights flickering outside, and felt my world collapse. I needed proof I could touch, something undeniable. I hired a private investigator, a man named Ray, who operated out of a cramped office in Hell's Kitchen. He smelled of cigarettes and regret, but his eyes were sharp. "Give me a week," he said. The photos arrived in a plain manila envelope, delivered to my gallery. I locked my office door and opened it. David and her, Chloe. She was 25, with long auburn hair and legs that seemed to go on forever. They laughed outside a cafe in Williamsburg, kissed in the back of a cab, disappeared into the Standard's elevator. One photo caught her face clearly. Red lips, the same shade as that lipstick, and eyes that sparkled with a confidence I remembered from my own youth. I stared at the photos, my chest tight, the gallery's white walls closing in like a cage. Why her? Was it her age, her beauty, her freedom? I'd given David everything. My love, my trust, my prime years. I'd curated our life like a masterpiece, every detail perfect. I'd stayed fit, kept my style sharp, earned my place in a city that chews up dreamers, and he'd traded it for a fling with a girl young enough to be our daughter. Rage burned through me, but so did grief. I wasn't just losing David. I was losing the version of myself who'd believed in us. I didn't cry, not yet. Instead, I planned. David's 55th birthday was 2 weeks away, and he'd planned a big party at our favorite jazz club in Harlem, the Cotton Club. He'd been talking about it for months, inviting colleagues, friends, even his old college buddies. I let him think it was all going forward. I even picked out a gift, a vintage Rolex he'd eyed at a Sotheby's auction, wrapped in a box with a silk ribbon. But I had other plans. I spent those 2 weeks preparing, moving like a ghost through our life. I met with a divorce lawyer in Midtown, a woman with steel in her eyes who promised I'd walk away with what I deserved. I transferred half our savings to a new account, just in case. I went to therapy, spilling my anger to a woman who nodded and said, "You're not broken, Laura. You're waking up." And I watched David, memorizing his lies. The way he'd kiss my forehead before leaving for work. The way he'd hum while checking his phone, oblivious to the storm I was brewing. The night of the party, I stood in our penthouse, staring at my reflection. I wore a black dress that hugged my curves, diamonds at my throat, my hair swept up to show the silver streaks I'd earned. I was 50, but I was no relic. I'd fought for every line on my face, every victory in my career. I slipped the lipstick, her lipstick, into my purse, its weight a promise. At the Cotton Club, the air was thick with cigar smoke and saxophone wails. The band played My Funny Valentine, and David was in his element, charming our friends, clinking glasses with his partners. I mingled, smiling, playing the perfect wife one last time. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. I waited until the room was full, the champagne flowing, the crowd buzzing with anticipation for David's big moment. Then I took the mic. The band stopped, the notes fading into silence. All eyes turned to me, a sea of curious faces. David grinned, expecting a toast, a gushy speech about our love. I let the moment hang, savoring the weight of it. "David," I said, my voice clear, cutting through the room like a blade. "Happy birthday. I got you something special." I reached into my purse and pulled out the lipstick, holding it up. The crimson caught the light, and the crowd murmured, confused. David's grin faltered, his eyes narrowing. "Recognize this?" I asked. "Or maybe Chloe does." The room gasped, whispers rippled like wildfire. David's face drained of color, his mouth opening, but no words came. I didn't stop. 2 years, David, 2 years of lies. You thought I wouldn't find out. That I'd stay your perfect wife while you snuck off to the Standard with a girl half my age. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered, the sound sharp in the silence. I stepped closer to him, my voice low but lethal. "I know about the dinners, the lingerie, the hotel rooms. I know about her, and I'm done curating your lies." I tossed the lipstick at his feet, where it rolled against his polished shoes. "Enjoy your party," I said. "You're on your own now." I turned and walked out, my heels clicking on the hardwood, the city's pulse matching my own. The crowd parted, their shocked faces a blur. I didn't look back. I checked into a boutique hotel in Chelsea, poured a glass of wine, and stared at the skyline from my window. The pain was raw, a knife in my chest, but so was my freedom. David called, texted, left voicemails begging for forgiveness, swearing it was a mistake. I didn't answer. The next morning, I met my lawyer and filed for divorce. I wanted the penthouse, half his assets, and my dignity intact. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Friends took sides. Some called me brave. Others whispered I'd overreacted. Gossip spread through Soho's art scene, but I didn't care. I threw myself into my work, curating a new exhibit on female resilience, pouring my pain into every choice. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since my 20s, filling canvases with bold reds and deep blues. I reconnected with old friends, women who'd walked through their own fires and come out stronger. David tried to win me back. He sent flowers, letters, even showed up at the gallery once, his face haggard. "Laura, I'm sorry," he said. It was nothing. She was nothing. I looked at him, the man I'd loved for half my life, and felt only pity. "You were everything," I said, "and you threw it away." I walked away, leaving him in the empty gallery. Now, I'm starting over. I'm Laura Bennett, 50, and New York is mine again. I'm painting, curating, living for myself. I walk the High Line at sunset, sip espresso in Little Italy, dance alone in my new apartment to jazz records I'd forgotten I loved. The lipstick sits on my dresser, a relic of the life I left behind. It's not a wound anymore, it's a trophy, a reminder that I chose myself.
If Laura's story of shattering a web of lies and reclaiming her power in the heart of New York left you inspired, or maybe even stunned, smash that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now so you don't miss the next gripping tale of betrayal, courage, or epic redemption. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever faced a heartbreaking deception like Laura did? Or maybe you've stood your ground and walked away from a toxic situation? Share your story below. Let's spark a real conversation. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.